Family. This is part two of the Charleston, South Carolina segment of Color of Truth. I'm actually inside of the old slave market on Chalmers Street, and we can't actually take pictures in the inside, but I have a great, wonderful person here named Chelsea, who is one of the administrators of the building, and she knows more about some of the brief history of the old slave market here on Chalmers Street in Charleston, South Carolina. So I just wanted to ask Chelsea, if she was so kind and so generous to, and also her colleague, what's her name? Maya. Her colleague Maya is sitting here with us, who can give us a little bit of information also. So I would like Chelsea to tell us a little bit about the brief history of the old slave market, and give you some historical data and some historical facts about it. Chelsea?
Of course, yeah. So the space that we're in was once known as Mart. It was used as an auction site for buying and selling enslaved people from 1856 until 1863. July 1st, 1856, a city ordinance had passed that banned the public sale of enslaved people. Because those public auctions were happening in very busy areas of the city, and it was causing a lot of traffic and congestion, and it just didn't fit the nice image that they wanted to present to visitors. So those public sales were banned, and that's when everything was moved into actual auction sites such as this one. And this site became the largest of over 40 that had opened just in this part of the city because of that. So the space that we're in was actually an alleyway originally, so these walls are the walls of the buildings next door to us. Just had a dirt floor, didn't even have a roof for the first couple of years. It was just an open space, but it was off of the sidewalk, and it was a privately owned piece of property. That's all that they really cared about. The original owner of the site was Thomas Ryan. He was a city councilman and was likely involved in getting that ordinance passed in the first place, so he had a bit of prior knowledge that that ordinance was going to go into effect before, so he was able to have this site ready to go the first day that that ordinance was in effect. We don't have a complete record of the amount of auctions that would have taken place here, since a lot of those records were destroyed over the years. To the best of our knowledge, easily thousands of people a year were sold out of just this one site. And then you multiply that by the large amount of auction sites that were in the city, you kind of get a good idea of the scale of the trade in Charleston at the time.
Yeah.
So today it's a museum that focuses on that history, so it'll tell you a bit more about the actual auctions that would have taken place here, as well as going into the more general history of slavery in Charleston, as well as the country.
Wonderful. And how long have you been working here, Chelsea?
7 or 8 years.
7 or 8 years, okay, all right, yeah. And if you just take a look around and see, you can see all the historical stuff that allows you to know about the actual slave mart. And have you found that during your 7 years here, have there been a lot of people coming that are interested in knowing about the history?
Oh yeah, a lot. And that's only increased over the years. Our visitation has grown significantly since I started working here. In 2019, we had over 80,000 people visit the site in a year, which, considering we're a really small location, is a lot. Last year, of course, was a bit of an outlier with the pandemic, but every year we've been getting more and more visitation.
So eventually, you might have to put it in another building. So, but because of the historical nature of it. Yes. Now, the owners of the museum, are they thinking about adding more artifacts, more exhibits?
Right. So the city of Charleston owns the site, and we are actually in the process of redoing the exhibit upstairs to make it more site specific. In the next year or two, there'll be the International African American History Museum that will be opening further up the peninsula. So we'll be able to kind of shift our focus more from just the history of slavery in Charleston in general to the history of this site specifically. So hopefully it'll be a bit more of an in-depth look at what would have happened here specifically, rather than just here in Charleston.
Now, when enslaved, and the last question I got for you, so when enslaved people would have been sold from this particular place, they would have walked from this way, right? Because of the ocean? Or?
Well, it depends. So this during the time period that the site was in use, it was during the domestic slave trade, so that transatlantic slave trade had been abolished. Right. So usually they would be coming in, walking in from other parts of the country. So that could be, from a plantation further outside of Charleston, or it could be from Texas or Maryland or wherever. There was a site, there was a building directly behind us, which was known as Barracoon or jail, where slave traders could pay to house them before the auctions. Right. and then they'd be brought out from that back lot into this space to be auctioned off, but they could also be kept elsewhere around the city. It just really depended on the person.
Well, Chelsea, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to be interviewed for Color of Truth, and also for the contributions that you helped to give to this exciting museum, because it's a thing to where there are people, if we don't know the history of enslaved people, it's like bringing the past to the present to help shape the future. So I just want to take your time thank you for taking time out to be a part of this video, and hopefully this encourage people who may be in the Charleston area or coming from Savannah. We're from Savannah, and people around the country that will come to the Old Slave Mart Museum located here on Chalmers Street in Charleston, South Carolina. Thank you again for joining for another segment of Color of Truth. Make sure that you subscribe, hit the like button, and also come to the slave market and learn about your history. Thank you.